Many people today feel mentally tired even when they are not doing anything physically demanding. They rest, but the rest does not really help. Their attention keeps jumping, and even simple moments feel strangely noisy. And the confusing part is this: the more you try to fix it with effort, the more effort becomes the problem. Welcome to Mini Mind Hack. In this video, we will look at Zen Buddhism not as a religion, but as a way of describing human experience. We will start with where Zen came from and why it developed the way it did. Then we will translate its core ideas into ordinary, everyday situations, the kind you are probably living through right now. And finally, we will connect these ideas to what psychology and neuroscience suggest about attention, effort, and mental clarity. Zen, originally known as Chan, emerged in China around the 6th century and later developed further in Japan. It grew out of earlier Buddhist traditions, but it also reacted to very concrete cultural conditions. At that time, many Buddhist schools were becoming highly intellectual. Practice often meant studying complex texts, memorizing doctrines, and learning long chains of explanation about reality. For monks and lay people alike, understanding could start to mean collecting ideas, rather than noticing what experience feels like from the inside. Zen developed as a counter-movement to that tendency. Its central question was simple, but radical. What is actually happening right now, in your direct experience, before you explain it? Tradition often links early Zen to a teacher named Bodhidharma, who is remembered less for a system of beliefs and more for a direct approach. Sit, look, and stop relying on concepts as a substitute for seeing. Whether or not every detail of those origin stories is historical, the point is clear. Zen formed around a suspicion. The mind can use explanation as a way to avoid contact with what is real. Later, Zen entered Japan and took on distinct forms there. Two important figures are Eisai, who helped establish Rinzai Zen in Japan, and Dogen, a 13th century monk who founded the Soto Zen tradition. Dogen is especially known for writing about practice as something immediate, not a tool to reach a future state. In his view, sitting is not a technique to manufacture peace later. It is a way to fully meet what is happening now. Zen also developed in a society that valued discipline, repetition, and form. Monastic life was strict. Daily routines were repetitive. There was little emphasis on personal expression or emotional explanation. You did not come to the monastery to talk about yourself. You came to train attention. This shaped Zen into something practical. Less interpretation, more direct seeing, less commentary, more presence. One of the best-known Zen practices is Zazen, often translated as just sitting. This does not mean sitting while trying to feel calm. It means sitting while observing what appears, without immediately turning it into a project. Another element, especially in Rinzai Zen, is the use of koans, short paradoxical stories or questions. Koans are not puzzles to solve with logic. They are designed to reveal how quickly the mind tries to control uncertainty with neat answers. Zen keeps pointing to the same pattern. Much of our suffering is not only what happens, but what the mind does with what happens. This does not mean thinking is bad. It means thinking often tries to manage experience instead of allowing it to unfold. And this is where Zen becomes surprisingly relevant to modern life. Because many people do not just think, they supervise their thinking. They monitor themselves all day. They run a constant background check on whether they are doing life correctly. You can see this clearly in ordinary situations. You might be walking somewhere, but you are already rehearsing the next conversation. You might be eating, but you are evaluating whether the food is healthy enough, whether you deserved it, whether you should stop. You might be resting, but you are monitoring whether you are resting properly. You might be with someone you care about, but part of you is watching yourself from a distance, checking whether you are saying the right things, whether you look calm, whether you seem confident. In these moments, attention is divided. Part of you is in the activity. Another part is supervising the activity. Zen trains the opposite movement. It brings attention back into the activity itself, without commentary. Not to escape thought, not to become blank, but to stop using thought as a constant control mechanism. This sounds simple, but it changes experience over time. At first, many people feel more restless. When the mind is not given its usual job of managing everything, it tries to reassert control. Thoughts can feel louder for a while. You may notice impulses you normally cover up with activity. You may feel boredom, irritation, or impatience. Zen does not treat that as a failure. It treats it as information. It is the mind showing you how addicted it is to interference. But gradually, something else can happen. Experience becomes simpler, not emptier, but less layered with evaluation. You still have thoughts, but the thoughts are not always running the show. You still have emotions, but you do not immediately turn them into a crisis to solve. You become more capable of staying with what is happening even when it is uncomfortable. Modern psychology describes similar processes, even if it uses different language. One relevant idea is that constant self-monitoring increases cognitive load. Your brain spends energy not only on doing something, but on checking how well you are doing it. That checking can become a habit. And when it becomes a habit, it becomes tiring. Over days and weeks, the fatigue is not only from the task, it is from the extra layer of supervision. This is one reason people can feel mentally exhausted even when life does not look hard on paper. Their mind is busy managing the experience of living. There is also a well-known everyday phenomenon. When attention becomes too self-focused, experience loses texture. You stop hearing the full sound of a song because you are judging whether you are enjoying it. You stop tasting food because you are thinking about what it means. You stop feeling the relief of rest because you are turning rest into another performance. When monitoring relaxes, mental effort decreases. People often report something specific. They feel more directly connected to what they are doing. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because fewer mental resources are being spent on controlling every detail. Zen calls this just sitting or just doing, not as a slogan, as a description of attention when it is not fragmented. It is worth saying clearly, Zen does not promise happiness. It does not aim to remove difficult emotions. It does not sell a permanent calm. Instead, it changes the relationship to what appears in the mind. When sadness or frustration shows up, the usual impulse is to explain it, fix it, or push it away. Zen asks a different question. What is this experience like when it is not immediately managed? What happens if you stop arguing with it for a moment? Not to submit to it, not to glorify it, just to see what it is, without the second layer of resistance. Over time, this can reduce what psychologists sometimes call secondary suffering. The original emotion might still be there, but fewer extra layers get added on top of it. Less shame about the emotion, less panic about the emotion, less compulsive fixing, less self-judgment. In a modern context, this matters because many environments reward constant self-monitoring. We track productivity, we track sleep, we track mood, we track progress, we even track relaxation. And the hidden message becomes, if you are not optimizing, you are failing. Zen offers a counterbalance, not by rejecting modern life, not by pretending you can escape the world, but by showing the limits of control. It suggests that some forms of clarity come not from trying harder, but from interfering less. Returning to the beginning of the video. If you feel mentally tired without a clear reason, it may not be because you are doing too little. It may be because too much of your experience is being managed from the outside, even when you are alone, even when nobody is watching. Zen does not ask you to believe anything. It asks you to notice what changes when effort softens. You do not have to adopt a new identity. You do not have to become a Zen person. You can treat it as a small experiment. For example, take one everyday activity this week and try doing it with less commentary. A short walk without planning. A meal without evaluation. A shower without rehearsing the day. Not perfectly, just enough to notice how quickly the mind tries to take over and what happens when it does not. And if sitting still for a minute feels impossible, that is also a useful observation, because it tells you something important about how much your attention has been trained to stay busy. Thank you for staying with me. If you want more essays that connect lived experience with psychology, culture, and philosophy, you can subscribe to the channel or leave a comment about where you notice the monitoring mind showing up in your own life. Take care, and I'll see you next time.